Welcome to the Amazing Grace Talk podcast. Conversations that explore how God has pursued those He has made in His image. My wife and host, Erika Seamayer-Williamson, is on a journey to meet everyday people who have experienced a radical encounter with the divine presence of unconditional love. These are the stories that remind us why God's grace is amazing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast. My name is Erika, and I'm so glad you stopped by. It is my hope that through the amazing testimonies you will hear on this show, will plant a seed in your heart and ignite your dreams, all for God's glory. Through much prayer and listening to God's direction, I actually retired from a 30-year career in 2020 to spend more time doing just that, helping women find clarity, overcome struggles, and discover their true calling. In 2016, I launched the Amazing Grace Retreats in the beautiful Black Hills of South Dakota. Started this podcast in September of last year, and in the spring, I will finish my autobiography, a book that shares my struggles and victories to prove that anyone can live in God's amazing grace for those who believe in Him. I can't wait to see you at the next retreat. On today's episode, we have one of my dear friends that I've known for probably over 15 years. Her name is Ginny Baker, and I met her when I was working as an esthetician in cosmetic dermatology. I was so grateful that she came into the office, and I'm going to just I'll tell a little more, but I'm going to let her tell you how she found me, why she even chose to come in, and what the situation was with everything. So, Ginny, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm grateful. You know, we've been friends a long time, and every time we have this connection, this beautiful just connection of love that I think you meant so much to me as much as maybe I meant to you. And we just carried that all through these years, even though sometimes days, weeks, even years would go by, but we would reconnect, and anytime we'd see each other and we would hug, we always cried.
Yeah, that's so true.
We just had this beautiful connection. But, you know, why I wanted to have you on the show is what you went through and what you're going to share. I was always impressed, you being the age that you were, going through alopecia, losing your hair, and I'll let you tell all about that. But you never seemed like poor me. You never seemed like a victim. And it would have been okay if you did for a while. I mean, people go through that. But seems like your faith and your love for God, you just kept pressing forward in a positive way that was always impressive to me. And that's one of the things I would love. I mean, those are the things that I share on this show is how God has touched people in a miraculous way. And guess what? You know, they, as well as you, are still living life. You're happy, you're joyful, no matter what happens in your life. So tell us how you ended up coming to UT Southwestern.
I was 15 years old, and I got very sick. We were actually visiting my grandmother's house. She had just passed away, and I think the stress of it all was truly the trigger. Of course, you know, scientifically, they don't know what actually causes alopecia, but a lot of people think it's stress. And so being there, like I said, I was very sick. I ran a fever of over 102 for 2 weeks straight, and had to actually wait to fly home because the doctors said that I wouldn't be allowed to get on an airplane like that.
Did you know what was going on at the moment, or you were just really sick?
I had no idea. In fact, I basically stayed in bed for those 2 weeks and got up just to go to the bathroom and shower. And I remember like the night before we were going to fly home, walking into the bathroom and looking in the mirror and like not recognizing myself at all.
Oh.
And my mom, my sweet mom, you know, I'm sure she, over the past, you know, the previous 2 weeks was thinking, wow, she's really strong, you know, but the truth is I wasn't even looking in the mirror for those 2 weeks because I felt so bad. And so when I finally looked in the mirror and realized that I had lost so much of my hair, it was sort of a freak out moment for a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
You know, I think when you're 15, you know, the emphasis is truly on how you look, how thin you are, what you wear. And to me, even though I was raised right, you know, and my mom always said what's on the inside counts. It's when something drastic like that happens and you look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself, it's sort of a like jolt of real life, And so that next day, my mom went super early before our flight and went and bought me a wig and a hat so that I could fly home on the airplane and look normal without getting these looks that I had never gotten before, of what was wrong with me. So when we got home, we went to several doctors trying to still figure out what in the heck was going on. And it's funny, my mom actually had the same exact kind of thing happen to her when she was 19. And she ran a fever of undetermined origin for a month, and no one ever figured out what it was, but she didn't lose her hair. So when we got back, I was very skinny. Even my friends didn't recognize me, and just really thought seriously something was wrong with me. Was I dying? I got all kinds of questions, did I have cancer? But I remember going to a dermatologist before we found you and having like one little tuft on my head, and asking him, like, am I going to be able to keep it? And I don't know what it was about having that one little
one little piece.
Yeah. Strand of, a few strands of hair, but it was sort of like that came with hope, like it wasn't going to be gone forever, and, he had no bedside manner. And he grabbed it and was like, nope, you won't keep this. It's going to fall out eventually. So we might as well get rid of it now and get rid of that hope that you were
horrible.
feeling. Yeah. So I remember sitting there after that happened and kind of being in a trance of watching my mom yell so angry. She was so angry at this doctor and like motioning for me to get up. And I remember just kind of going through the motions to the car and getting home and then realizing I was bald. And my mom was like, it's okay. We're going to figure this out. And school was about to start. And, like all of these thoughts that I had never had to think before were running through my head. Like, how was I going to draw on my eyebrows and make them, even, which is actually a really hard task to do when you have no guideline whatsoever. And like, was I going to glue on my eyelashes every single morning just so I could look normal? And then finding a wig that, looked like me and wasn't like crazy curly and, was comfortable.
Right.
And I was on drill team, so I had to be able to dance in it and everything else.
That would be hot.
It was hot.
So but back up, at this point, you were really sick at your grandmother's. You came home, you started going to seeking doctors. That was all in a span of what, a month?
Yeah, it was about a month.
And you had lost all your hair.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrifying.
It was,
especially for a teenage girl, and you were the lieutenant of the drill team?
I had just made junior lieutenant on the drill team. And so, of course, with that, everything's mandatory because you're a leader on the drill team, you know? And so, like, I left first summer looking totally normal and came back, frail, less than 100 pounds, had no hair, and my hair suddenly didn't look like it had looked, to all my friends I had had for so long. I had fake eyelashes. I mean, it wasn't inconspicuously done that you might not notice. It was really obvious, like I had eyelashes glued on and drew my eyebrows on with eyeliner. So my mom was determined to find some kind of a way to make my mornings feel normal. And she found you. She found UTSW and a dermatology clinic that could do permanent makeup and, put my eyeliner on for me all, where it stayed on all the time, and my eyebrows to where I didn't have to worry if I looked surprised that day because I drew them on uneven. But that was the biggest blessing, I think, in all of it. And the one thing that kind of when you felt like I couldn't go on anymore and I didn't, didn't want to wake up every morning and do that. It was sort of,
that's a lot.
Yeah. It was sort of the one thing that was like, okay, I can do this. And so we found you, and you were an angel. Oh. Truly.
I was, I not only did cosmetic, thank you for saying that, but I not only did cosmetic permanent makeup, but paramedical procedures as well. And it was great that I was at the cosmetic clinic and was able to do those things because, they're kind of few and far between, those artists, and it's hard to find. Really, I'd only worked on a few other people that had alopecia. So you came in, you were just I remember you looking like a beautiful mannequin. I mean that as a compliment because remember, you had no brows, no I mean, you're tall.
That's so true.
And your skin was flawless. And it was just like, I just took on it was a whole nother level of responsibility in how you were going to look.
Right.
And how it was going to help you look and how that was all going to work out. And I remember back during that's kind of crazy because now in all the years that I taught permanent makeup, I would always draw them in first and show them. And I really don't know why, but I just freehanded your brows. And hallelujah, when I saw you years later and your hair grew back in, I was like,
it was right where
God.
it was right where they grew back in. I don't know how you did it because you had zero guide, and it was perfect.
No guide there. But I remember through that, I mean, I don't know which one I want to talk about first. I want to ask whether the things with your drill team and what you had to go through there, but tell everyone about the treatments that you were doing there. I mean, I've told so many people through the years about this story. It had to have been so painful, excruciating, uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them, because I've finally gotten it down, but you tell us what that treatment is and how that worked.
So, the first treatment I did where it was taking steroids, and that sucks. Anyone that, has done that knows it sucks. You're hungry, angry, you've
everything.
Everything. And then the second one was where they injected shots of cortisone into my scalp, and that didn't work. And the third one was actually at UTSW2, and they actually would apply a synthetic poison ivy to my scalp and let it blister. And that was the goal, was to make it inflamed and blister so that would distract my immune system from attacking my hair follicles, which is what made my hair fall out, and instead turn to healing those blisters, kind of like a trick, like, hey, look over here, and meanwhile my hair's growing back. And then, every 3 weeks, once it would heal, I'd have to go back and do it all over again. So that first time I did 18 treatments of that, and it was awful.
18? What span of a time was that?
It was over the span of like a year and a half.
I didn't realize you did 18.
Year and a half, 2 years. It was awful. I remember some mornings my mom would have to come in and wet my pillowcase so that we could peel my head off of my pillowcase. That's how bad it was, which is so gross and so awful. But again, at 15 years old, you're kind of vain, and you're kind of trained to be that way by all the people you're surrounded by at school. And, if you don't look like everyone else, then, it's hard. Yeah. And so I was desperate to get my hair back.
And do whatever it took.
And it did work.
How did the other girls and on the team, and the drill team, treat you?
Very different. It was amazing to me.
They did?
Yeah. It was truly, I remember walking up that day we got back. After we got back, we had those drill team pictures, and it was team photo day. And, I had a wig on under my hat. And like I said, it didn't look like my hair, and all these girls had known me, super well for a very long time. And it was sort of like in that moment, I realized how it feels to truly look different. And it was amazing to me because I immediately internally felt this feeling of drive to never ever make anyone feel like that again.
Yeah.
I didn't ever want to feel like I was judging someone, and even worse, make them feel like I was judging them. And so the rumors spread around, I had cancer, I was dying. I remember going to the bathroom one day during class, and a girl stopped me and she was like, "I'm so sorry. I heard. What's going on with you?" And I was like, "Oh, please tell me. I don't know what's going on with me." She's like, "You're dying and you have cancer. I heard you had cancer. What kind of cancer do you have?" "My grandma has cancer." And I was like,
"You're like,
listen, I know you're coming from a really good place," but I was like, "I just don't have hair. It's something that most people don't know about. And, I'm not dying. You can still be my friend, and I'll be here, years from now."
Yeah.
But I think that was kind of the fear that they had, was that I wouldn't be around for long. And it's funny that my girlfriends dwindled, but my guy friends group grew, because guys really don't care how you look.
Right.
If they're truly not looking to have a relationship with you, and they just want to have a friend, they don't care what you look like. They just want somebody to go play dodgeball with. And so that's who I became, was a girl that was surrounded by a group of guys that didn't care how she looked and kind of empowered her to do fun things, you know?
Right. And you did, and I'm sure just going through that, I mean, how has that affected you further in your life?
I think definitely it has. I think I still have a bigger group of guy friends than I do girlfriends.
Yeah.
And I think that the friends that I do have are people that I can lean on, you know, and I may not see you, you know, like I may not see you for a couple weeks, but you're not going to judge me for that. Or, you know, if a year goes by and, you know, and it's amazing because I think God protects us in that way of, you know, when you have somebody who might be judgmental, he sort of builds up a block to where you don't really want to be around that person anymore.
Right.
And I think I had a lot of blocks built up and a huge wall around me. And I'm still very careful about who I let in, you know, because of that.
Right. So at that point, so you had all those treatments, and then how long did your hair grow back?
It did. Yeah. So it grew back. And right about that time, I got married.
Oh, so how long did that take?
So I started at DBU in 2007, and that was freeing in itself because college is amazing and nobody knows you, and you walk on campus and it's like you can be whoever you want to be. So like for the first time ever, the very first day of college, I went to school and wore a hat and no wig, and it was like freedom, you know, like the greatest feeling ever.
Yeah.
And so when I was 19 when I got married.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was young. I remember.
Yeah. I was
Yeah, you
really
were
young.
young.
Yeah. Very young, very naive.
Well, so your hair grew back. Was it full? I mean, did it come in full hair,
Yes.
like your regular hair, or was
Yeah.
it different?
It was spotty. It was very spotty at first. But eventually it all filled in. And it was odd because I had always been blonde my whole life, like bleach blonde hair. And when it grew back like dark, dark brown.
Wow.
And that happens. Your hair texture can change and the color can change. So it was odd, you know.
I was going to say that happens a lot of time through different trauma or even people's pregnancies where their hair is totally different.
Yeah.
So how long, or did you want to speak about something else in college and that freedom, or?
I just, you know, I realized at that point that, you know, I spent a lot of my high school years like asking God why, you know, and feeling like it wasn't fair and kind of being really upset about it. Like you said, I really didn't show it too much, but it's really hard not to ask those questions.
Yeah.
When you've lived a really cushiony, you know, happy life and, you know, I was lucky, very lucky. And so once I got to college, I realized that God was doing this to me for a reason. You know, it wasn't because he didn't like me or because, you know, I wasn't doing the right thing or anything like that, but like there was a bigger message behind it for me, and it was to help others. And so I remember walking from one class to another one day, and somebody stopped me and they were like, "Hey, do you have alopecia?" And I was like, "Yes, I do. How'd you know?" And you know, obviously I had no hair and was wearing a hat, and you know, but they were like, "My sister has that. And, you know, like, is there any chance that you would want to talk to her?" And I was like, sure. You know, I don't know that I have a whole lot of great things to say, but, you know, just having kind of like a comrade to, you know, bounce ideas off of and, you know, like encourage you that it will come back and you might lose it again, but it will come back. And that happened to me a couple times. And that was when I was able to let go of those feelings of, you know, anger and asking God why, because I knew why.
But what helped? I mean, other than that, how do you feel like you got to that place? Like of feeling like you knew it was a bigger purpose? But do you think just through a lot of prayer or through a lot of...
I think a lot of trust.
Okay.
I think that, you know, my mom and dad always encouraged me, like, you know, you may not understand why this is happening to you, but there's somebody up above you who knows exactly why it's happening.
Yeah.
And if you can't trust him, like think about the life you've lived and your desires and dreams, like that's all part of his plan.
Yeah.
And if you are questioning him because of this, and I was sort of like, you know, that makes me look bad.
but you know, you've got the sweetest parents.
Yes.
You've got an adorable sister. I mean, what a beautiful family you have. And I love, you know, they're older parents, right? I mean, they're
Yeah.
You had, and it almost like, well, not like grandparents, but just older parents.
Right.
But I just think they had a lot of wisdom.
They did. They were married 17 years before they had my sister. And then 3 years later they had me. So it was sort of like truly having a grandparent, like having somebody who had the wealth of, knowledge of life, like a full life.
Yeah.
They got to live the single life for 17 years and then, have kids and, do business together. And like they had all the answers. And it was just whether or not I was ready to listen,
I need vision. I need creativity. I need someone to handle it all. Do you know an expert that can help me?
agirlforthat.com.
Event planning?
agirlforthat.com.
Branding our family vacation?
agirlforthat.com.
Work with my budget?
agirlforthat.com.
Meet the deadlines?
agirlforthat.com.
Ideas that will blow everybody away?
agirlforthat.com.
Hi, I'm Ginny, founder of The Girl for That. Our thorough and exclusive event planning, vacation branding, and decorating services bring sophistication and excitement to any project. Here at The Girl for That, we pride ourselves on providing expert guidance throughout the whole planning process, and we don't stop until our clients are 100% happy with the finished look. We believe the little things make the biggest difference, and that outstanding events and branding are possible no matter the budget. Visit us on Instagram at The Girl for That or online at thegirlforthat.com. You'll be a huge success because you know The Girl for That.
From what I could see, it seemed like you did listen to most of it and you always had that kind of relationship with them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure going through those times it was difficult, but just having that solid rock.
It was, I don't know that I would have made it out the same, if it wasn't for them.
Yeah. If you didn't have that support.
Right.
And love.
Right.
For sure. So how many times did you go through? So your hair grew back. Is that when you got married, or when was that? You were in your 20s, or?
Yes, I was probably 20.
Okay.
And then I lost it again right before I had my daughter, Story. So I was 22 when I lost it again.
Was this the first time you lost it again?
Yeah.
What were you thinking at this point? You just felt defeated?
Very.
I thought I did all this.
Right. And I knew it was possible. In fact, like I had read so many things about it. There's one thing that happened to me that like made me realize like I cannot deny God was when I was reading about alopecia, I turned to the chapter in one book that was about the kind of alopecia that I had, and it was titled Ginny's Story, and it was spelled the exact same way as my name.
Really?
Yeah. And that was at the very beginning. And so like for me, it was like, I don't know if I even want to read about this. And like, I remember closing the book back and kind of, like asking God for strength and then reopening it and seeing that. And I was like, okay, I hear you, God. Like I have to learn more to understand this part of me. And, so I knew it could happen again.
Yeah.
I just didn't want it to,
right.
And so when it did, it was really hard, but getting pregnant is one of the oddest things. When you're pregnant and you have alopecia, your hair comes back because it's focusing on caring for the baby. And so my hair did come back.
While you were pregnant?
Yes. And then about a year later, I lost it again. Yeah.
What a roller coaster.
It was a roller coaster for sure. So I, at that point, my marriage was hard. And I kind of had figured out like stress wise, that was why, it just felt like an eye opening from God, like get it together. Like you are not this person. Like I didn't make you to be unhappy. Now you're a mom and you're putting up with a lot of stuff you shouldn't be putting up with. But my parents had been married for 40 years. And so divorce wasn't an option for me.
Yeah.
And I found out that he had cheated on me. And that was sort of like my eye-opening. God, tapped me on the shoulder and said, here's your reason. Because to me, that was the only reason to get a divorce. I had a baby with him and, we had blended, our families, pretty well, but we both were unhappy. It was hard, especially having lost my hair.
How did he react to you losing your hair?
He was, he was one of those people that always said the right thing on Facebook or said the right thing on, Instagram or to his friends he worked with or whatever. But when it came to actually being supportive, he never took me to the doctor. He never was there like when I needed him,
Yeah.
And I remember begging for his attention at times. And it was sort of like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And I finally decided, and I don't know what it was. I think just being prayerful and, beginning to realize I was more valuable than I was allowing myself to believe.
Oh.
It made me realize that maybe if I could find my own happiness, that my hair would come back. Before that, I had gone to Columbia University. I don't know if you remember this.
I don't know. Tell me.
I went to Columbia University because they had this research trial. And, after hearing about the last treatment I had where they put, the synthetic poison ivy on my head, one can only imagine, understand why a pill being my answer seemed like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And so I was so gung-ho about it. I'm like, I'm going to do this and this is going to be my answer and this is going to be great. And flew to New York City with my sister only to be told by the head doctor of the trial, like, this will be one of the hardest things that you've ever had to do.
Taking a pill?
The trial itself, because one...
Oh, sorry. I don't know where I got lost in that thinking that it was a pill. Sorry.
It is a pill.
Oh, it is.
But it was, she said, emotionally, you'll take it. It's not great for your immune system. So it will bottom out your immune system. And then on top of that, you'll have to stop the pill at some point. So even if you get your hair back, then you have to stop taking it and you'll lose it all again.
Oh, no.
And so like I had to juggle this. And then my first question was, well, what if it works? Can I keep taking it after I lose it again? It seems so silly, to think that that's the answer. And so, no, because it wasn't FDA approved yet at that point, for treatment of that. So it was like, I remember flying home and feeling lost, and like, oh, this was my answer. This was my answer to my own happiness, but then I talked to my family about it, and obviously decided I was not going to, one, spend money to fly to New York to put myself through that.
Yeah.
And two, I spent a lot of time with God and kind of ugly time, with that, like, why are you doing this to me? And it was sort of all those feelings again. And then realizing I have a little girl now. And do I really want to teach her that being beautiful and looking like everyone else is something that you need so badly that you'll do things like that to hurt yourself?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I would be so disappointed in my kid, to hear, if she was doing something to hurt herself in the name of beauty. And I was like, plus I'm stronger than that. I don't need hair to be a good mom. And I don't need it to be a good daughter, and I don't need it to be a good friend. And at that point, it was like freeing again, sort of the same feeling I had when I went to college and, was surrounded by people who didn't know me and didn't care what I looked like. It was like owning who I was finally for the first time.
So have you ever spoken to other people with alopecia? Like,
I have. There's been a couple really eye-opening experiences for me where, young girls, I've talked to a few young girls who have had it. And then, it's amazing when people know what you're going through, how many people come out of the woodwork that you realize I'm not the only person dealing with this, And there was one girl at UTSW that I met, and one of the doctors suggested that I talk to her. And she was probably in her 30s when I met her, and she had lost her hair several times. And she gave me a lot of hope because she had hair when I met her.
Okay.
But it was more how strong she seemed that really changed my outlook.
Wow. And that's what you need. And God probably placed her along your path and along your way to help build your strength and give you hope.
Yep.
I know. And so now we're to this place where you've lost it again.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you and I hadn't seen each other in a couple of years. And even when you came to the retreat the other day to Worthy, and the mask was on, and it took me a minute. I'm like looking at you, and I'm like, oh, I don't recognize her. And I'm like, but you look absolutely beautiful. I mean, with or without your hair, but when you want to wear your hair.
Right.
You are just looking beautiful in this.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
This natural, real hair that you have. And tell that story about when you went in, something that your husband did special for you.
So, yes, Bryce, I have to give him all the credit in the world because he was kind of the answer to so many of my missing pieces, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a dark place after my divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Getting cheated on brings back all those teen girl feelings that I felt. It brought back all those feelings I felt, like, was I pretty enough? Was I good enough? Was I skinny enough? And luckily for me at this point in my life, I knew the answer to all of that. I was like, no, it's not because I don't have hair. No, it's not because, and
not even your fault.
Right. And so I was okay with being single for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I prayed for a man that would only have eyes for me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said me, it meant hair or no hair.
All of you.
Yeah, all of me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found Bryce, he was in the same exact position as me. We both had kind of vowed off dating, and we both had kids. And we knew that when we found somebody, they had to be okay with the fact that we were going to still put our kids first.
Yeah.
And he was that person, and we knew immediately. And it was amazing because when we met, I did have hair, but I was very straightforward with him and told him, this is part of who I am. And
look at me now, but I might look like this later.
Exactly.
Are you ready for that?
Yeah. And he never seemed scared or worried or, he was just like, I don't care. It's fine. I'm not worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it happened, it's almost like God was speaking through him to where he would, he'd always say the right things. He was always like, stop looking in the mirror because no one else who really cares about you is looking at the outside of you. Like everyone who cares about you cares about what's on the inside,
True.
And he was always supportive and trying to get me whatever made me comfortable as far as wigs and things like that go. But wigs suck when you have no hair on your head to kind of cushion. They're uncomfortable.
Because they're hot.
Yeah, they're hot. They're itchy. They're, if you have no hair to clip it to, you got to tape it on your head or glue it on your head. And he went out of his way to find things that made me feel comfortable. And one day I was at work and I got a text from him and it said, "You're leaving work today at 12. Everything's already taken care of. I talked to your boss. You need to go home and there will be more information on what you need to do when you get there." So I'm like, oh gosh, this could be anything. I had no idea what it was going to be, but I walked in the door and there was a card and it had an address in it. And it, it was very sweet and said, put on the outfit that makes you feel the prettiest and, go get yourself Starbucks on your way here. And so I did. And I pulled up and the place was not a place where you're like, hey, I'm at the Taco Bell, I didn't know where I was. I was like, never been here. I've never seen a place that looked like this before. So I just walked in and the lady was like, "Are you Ginny?" I was like, "Yes, I am." And she's like, "Your husband called and we know exactly what you need to do. So don't worry. You're going to go upstairs with so-and-so." I can't remember the girl's name. I wish I could. She's like, "Just relax. Everything's okay."
Were you like, what? Could you tell what the place was by this point?
So at that point, my brain was trying to figure it out. And it was sort of like a little waiting area. And as I went up the stairs, I looked down into one of the rooms that was off to the side.
Yeah.
And it was a salon, there were people getting blowouts and their hair curled. And so I was like, what am I doing here? And I'm bald. Does he know you can't curl synthetic wigs? And so I get upstairs and they close the door and it's a beautiful room. And it was incredible because the lady was like, "So your husband has you here today because he wants you to find the wig that makes you feel the most comfortable, has the best, fit for you, looks exactly how you want. There's, no budget. He wants you to just, pick out whatever it is that makes you feel like you." And it was incredible because when I left there that day, it wasn't the fact that I had this fancy new hair that it was amazing. It didn't even feel like I had it on when I had it on. I could swim in it, shower in it. It's just cool.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that made me feel whole. It was the fact that God had given me this man that knew what I needed even when I didn't know what I needed and cared enough to do something like that for me. And I think it was like the coolest thing in the world, having gone through what I had gone through, you know, with my divorce and, you know, high school, to feel like I don't need anything else.
Yeah. At that, you're probably like, I don't even need a wig, but this is fun.
Right.
But just the emotions that you felt from the love and care of him setting everything up, how great is that?
It was
what
wonderful.
A sweet husband.
Yeah.
And that's what you need.
That is exactly what I needed. Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful story.
Thank you.
I love it. Thanks for being courageous to come by here today and share your story. I love you very much.
Love you too. You make it easy.
Always so proud of you. And we are going to wrap it up, but tell us real quick what you're doing now.
Oh,
okay.
So I'm doing branding and event planning.
Okay.
And it's a company called The Girl for That.
That is the cutest name.
Thank you.
The Girl for That.
Yeah.
So, and she's even helping me with some things. I'm grateful we got in touch with each other again. And really, God just placed her on my mind. Really, it was just like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And thinking about her being on the show, and then she's telling me what she's doing. I'm like, I need you. So it was like a double win. So I'm grateful for that.
Thank you.
Thanks again for coming by.
Of course.
And so before we end this podcast today, I just wanted to bring on a special guest. Jenny brought her daughter here today, Story. Hello, Story.
Hi.
Do you want to say hello to anyone special?
My grandma and my grandpa.
Oh, good. Just say hello.
Hi.
They'll be listening. All right. We just wanted to include her in the show today. Well, thanks everyone again. And if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the podcast and write a good review and share on your social media. And we'll see you again here on Amazing Grace Talk.